Everybody who isn't enlightened. And we'll find out how many that is in just a minute. So everyone has a position on this line. All of you, you're someplace on this chart. And each of those positions have specific types of techniques that seem to work better than techniques for other people that are at other positions. Use the wrong technique, again, you get problems. Use the right technique, and it's almost immediately apparent. Again, more than a couple of weeks shouldn't be necessary. And you should be seeing benefits and or problems showing up in your life. How many of you have had one or more mystical experience that was powerful enough to shape your worldview? So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about some sort of boundary-dissolving experience, something where you've had a substantial change in your sense of self, maybe. Maybe you've had a unitive experience where you feel at one with everything. Maybe you've had an experience that dramatically shifted your relationship with time so that everything seems to be a very present moment. If you've had a lot of these experiences, or at least a number of these experiences, I would put you right about here. So you're in this section in the model. You're getting pretty close. Those are indications often. Now, if you had them a long time ago in childhood, and a lot of people have had them in childhood, the good news is it's probably a lot easier for you to get over here into the enlightened side. However, it still is going to take some developmental progression for you. So these are the people who are having this experience right now. They're not the people that had it a long time ago in childhood. Okay, so let's look at the rest of you. What I'd like you to do, what I'd like everybody to do, is just close your eyes for a minute, and I'm just going to walk you through a little exercise here. I'm not going to have you meditate or anything like that. You don't have to sit up straight. You can keep slouching, keep drinking, whatever. Just close your eyes for me and pay attention. I'm just going to ask you a few questions. I want you to think back to a time recently where you had a wish fulfilled. Now, maybe this was an overt goal, something that you'd been trying to achieve. Or maybe it was a synchronistic experience, one of those things that just happens. And you're kind of one of those things that makes you sort of ask, geez, how in the world did that happen? That seems so improbable. But it needed to have a little intent component to it. So even if it was a synchronicity, it needed to be something that you sort of thought might happen or thought about beforehand. All right? So I just want you to think about that for a moment. And then I want you to focus on what happened in the time period immediately before it. So what happened sort of just before it, or maybe a little while before it? And now I'm going to ask you to classify this experience. You can open your eyes. I'm going to ask you to classify this experience very roughly into one of three categories. There's a whole bunch of categories we could use, but we're going to use three big buckets today for this. So the first is, just before that or prior to that, did you have a lot of sustained intent trying to make whatever happened happen? Right? So maybe you had a goal, and you were putting a lot of intent and a lot of effort into trying to make that happen. And then all of a sudden, this goal that maybe was a very difficult goal, didn't maybe even seem like it was possible to have happen, but it did. It happened. It came true. Or maybe you had that sustained intent, but it wasn't just sustained intent. You also had an experience where something made you completely give up hope for this ever happening. So you might have been really working hard on this goal, and then something made you just throw up your arms and say, this can never happen, I totally give up, and then presto, it happened. Now that could also be intentionally done by you. You could have been trying to let go of it, right? So this could have also been some sort of technique that you were using to let go of your mental desire for it, to let go of your emotional desire for it. That counts too for that one. Or was it just a passing thought? Did you just sort of have a sort of occasional passing thought kind of pass by, barely unnoticed in the back of your mind, and a few minutes later, this thing happened?